All right, we are back. Sorry, everybody. We did not have a show last week. I had some health issues early. Jordan celebrating 3 years with his better half. Kev was just pissed off. But before we get started, shout out to Joe and Mike of LFG Pat's podcast. They had me on last Wednesday. Jordan's really sorry he couldn't join us. It was a lot of fun. Those are good dudes. They had Fitzy, who's a big Boston podcaster, up, and it was a good time. They even apologized to me because they were expecting for us to do half a show with Fitzy and then talk about the game. But Fitzy ended up staying for 45 minutes so that we just let him go. But less said about that game, the better. But we still got to talk about that. We still got to talk about tomorrow. First, though, Kev, nice to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, I really wish I was coming under better circumstances. Maybe a team that was not 0-2 and facing their division rivals on Thursday Night Football, which certainly has never brought bad vibes to the Miami Dolphins. I don't know what you're talking about. There's no indication that this game could go wrong for the Dolphins.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I said right as we got started, I said, it's a bad sign when you come on week 3 of the NFL season, and I've already switched to my Panthers gear.
It would be both. I'm not even wearing Dolphins stuff anymore.
And you said, just like I did, we have Dolphin stuff lying right here, and it's just the vibes could be better, right? And you make it even worse when our producer, who is the biggest believer that of all believers, and he believes in this team and in this quarterback more than anybody, and it's going into week 3, and he's asking the 3 of us for our list of the next head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Yep. But we'll start off with some positive, because we do got to get positive.
Very few.
Very few, but there is a couple. I will say this, and I say this fully conceding defeat tomorrow. I do not see us winning. I'm so confident we won't win. If you are in a Discord, you saw the bet I made where I said if we win, I will change my Discord profile. And I might even put that to Twitter if enough people want me to. If we win, I will make my profile picture an Ohio State Buckeye symbol for a week.
And if you have never listened to this show before, it is 3 minutes and 3 seconds in, and we have learned that Brett is a Michigan fan.
We did not learn that. If
you also don't know the lore of college football, Michigan and Ohio State are big rivals. Therefore, Brett would be very triggered by having Ohio State as his profile picture.
But that's how confident I am that we're not going to win. Now, if we do win tomorrow, all bets are off. Cocky Dolphin fans are going to be back in full force.
If we win tomorrow, we might win the Super Bowl.
Right. But what I was going to say is, even if we lose tomorrow, when we lose tomorrow, however you want to look at it, there is a path for us to turn the season around. We got the Jets on Monday night. The Jets we're horrible too. So let me preface by saying that we are horrible right now too. But Jets is a winnable game. Panthers are a winnable game. That gets us to 2-3 going into the Chargers game, at which point we're all back even. And we could potentially turn the season around and still make something of it. But man, everybody knows I'm probably one of the most positive people on this platform when it comes to Miami Dolphins. I just don't see a path to the playoffs with Mike McDaniel as our head coach. And I will give you guys the platform in a second. What I want to say is what finally made me out is we're driving at the end of the game. And we have, 2 delays of games. And on 4th down, the final play of the game for us offensively, we almost didn't get the play off in time. So our already bad backups aren't set, give up an easy sack. This has been a mistake going on for 4 years now. It's hard to see that getting fixed. But that's what had me out. I'll throw it to you first, Jordan. But the thing that looking at this team, both on offense and defense, it's a team that is thinking too much. And that goes to overcoaching. You said in Discord, we have 13 offensive coaches.
That's a lot. That's what you're quoting that I said in Discord. Thank you. Thank you for that being what you quoted.
13 off. Oh, you don't want me to quote Kev. He gets crazy.
Hey, I have been very tame. No, I haven't.
You have been very tame.
Although Jordan Barrett, not me. Jordan Barrett says, "Shut up, Kevin."
Hot take.
Yep, as our friend and recovering alcoholic Carpet Dinosaur says, fire McGreer. Yes, and we will get to that.
Is he recovering?
But yep. But I talked to a journalist named Greg. He does the Aqua and Coral Report. And what he said to me today was, on paper, the Dolphins have a lot of good coaches, but it's not a staff working to the same unison of a goal, individual goal. It looks like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. So,
like you said, this is, and after the game, Tua, McDaniel, there was an error in the fourth quarter, and we got to clean up time management and this and that. Like, to me, that conversation, Brett, we've been having since early in the season, in the first season of this podcast. We had this conversation when I had way too many alcoholic beverages in Buffalo, New York, in a playoff game with Skylar Thompson that we had no business being in, that one of the only reason we lost was because of time management. This organization was in a situation where they, again, I'm going to say it, almost won a playoff game in Buffalo with Skylar Thompson at quarterback and didn't because of clock management. That was the time to fix this. Now it's too late. This is not the first time you got cheated on, and I'm sorry, I'm going to make it better and I'm never going to do this again. We're on time 11, 12, 13. We've had as many late game offensive mishaps as we do offensive coaches now. And we're saying we have too many offensive coaches. This is not a new issue. And my problem is I'm ready to get rid of McDaniel. I think that there's a path where you lose bad enough tomorrow night where Mike doesn't come back and coach the game in 10 days. And I think that the long break in between tomorrow and the next game helps to that cause. But I'm not sure, and maybe it's Anthony Weaver, and maybe it's Frank Smith, or maybe and John Embry's name has been kind of in those situational mishaps. So I don't know if that's getting thrown under the bus or if there's validity to that. But I think there's a chance. I think the top guys are probably Weaver and Frank Smith. My guess is it goes to Weaver. And he gets an audition. But I have seen nothing, and I'm going to throw to Kevin here. I've seen nothing from Anthony Weaver's unit that makes me think he's deserving of being the head coach of this team. You see the Chargers defense, and you look at their corners on paper. Their corners aren't much better than ours. And everybody is salivating over that defense and over Jesse Minter. And look, I understand we don't have the best pieces on defense, but Anthony Weaver has done nothing with it that makes me want to see him be the head coach for the next 14 weeks after tomorrow.
Kev, before you go, the point I want to make on Weaver, I think right now, again, I think he is just as if not more to blame for the overcoaching. Yes, it's fun to say you have Jalen Phillips, who I think has looked pretty rusty at the beginning of the season, Bradley Chubb and Chop Robinson. You don't need to force them all onto field at once. What we've seen consistently through 2 games is we're dropping one of the 3 into coverage, and both the Patriots and the Colts have taken advantage of that for big plays. But also, Willie Gay was arguably our best player in camp, arguably our best player in preseason, and he has 3 snaps total through 2 games?
Yes,
that's crazy.
Anthony Weaver is coaching like a coach who does not know what his players are.
And 2 of those plays by Willie Gay were great plays that he made, and then he comes off the field and we immediately give up a 20-yard screen.
So, Kev, go ahead, because I know you are not shy on your feelings on Mike McDaniel. So let's hear what you got.
My issue with all of this is it's not just McDaniel. It's not just Anthony Weaver. I mentioned this somewhere else. I do not remember where I mentioned it. There are very few people who are not to blame for this currently going this way. And that's coaches, and that's players, and that's everyone in between. Tua Tagovailoa was not the problem on Sunday. But the truth is, and I know that this is equating football to very simplified standards, when you pay a quarterback the money that Tua is getting paid, the expectation is that down the stretch of games, he will be capable of leading you to victory. And throughout his career, right, it's been a little bit up and down there. This season, I haven't seen enough to say he can do that. He's like, to some degree, I think he's playing scared. He doesn't want to take hits, which I get, right? You want to stay in the field. That's your job. But there are opportunities to get yards on the ground that you're not taking because you're scared. You took a sack late in the game by running out of bounds because you couldn't find anyone open. You couldn't
with two people
throw
open. If you saw the
yeah, there was also guys open, but he didn't see him open, right? And so, like, the inherent issue with all of this is I looked through, and I don't like doing this a lot, right? This blame game thing where we try and point fingers to who's wrong and who's right. I did it. I tried to figure out who's part of the problem and who's part of the future solution. There aren't many people part of that solution, man. Like, this is a team that right now has no identity on offense. They have no identity on defense. Their special teams has great plays and then has awful plays in the matter of 30 seconds. Like, I understand that, like, the expectations for this team being an AFC East division winner was probably too high, right? Like, that was probably not a team that can do that right now. But it's also not been good enough through 2 games for me to sit here and say that this gets turned around. And that's where my issue is. It's fine to be 0-2, potentially 0-3. That's doable. You have 14 games left to turn it around. But there's been nothing for me to prove that this team can go on a stretch where they win 11 out of their last 14 games. There's been nothing for me to say that they can do that.
right.
And I want to address really quick, and Kev, I'll put it back to you, but Finn's Wave said we need to remember it's only been 2 games. It hasn't been 2 games. It's been the same problem for 4 years now. Or, like, this isn't new. And these were the things that we said we need to see change. And not only has it not changed, it's regressed. Kev, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is not that this is a 2-year sample size. The issue is that this is a 4-year sample size. And the issues that we've been talking about since game 1 of his first year, and we all thought, well, it can get better. It should get better because these things take time, right? Are still a problem 4 years in. And they're not problems that are personnel issues, right? It's not like, well, we just don't have a good left guard and our left guard is getting killed, right? That's something we have to fix. It's the fact that we can't run a 2-minute drive effectively because our play calls are too long. And that's been something that's been well established at this point, is that the play calls are too long to be able to get a 2-minute drive effectively. What are we doing? What are we doing? Yeah. Like, that's something that I expect every NFL team from top to bottom, 1 through 32, and most college teams to be able to run a 2-minute drill because you can get 1 call plays in, or you can get 1 word plays in. Yeah, like, these are issues that shouldn't happen. And they're issues that require a coach willing to swallow his pride and say, maybe I'm not equipped to call plays and be a head coach. And Mike McDaniels had plenty of opportunities to sit here and do that. And I don't know if he'll do it now because I don't believe he thinks he needs to do it. Yep. And these are issues that are just bad across the board. And it's a mess. Like, that's what it is. It's a mess.
Now, has Jonah been awful to start the year? Yes, he has. He's behind where I thought he'd be. You got to remember, he is a rookie who played right tackle, now playing left guard. Eric Smith did some great film breakdown on Twitter. His issue, and this goes back to what I said earlier, he's a guy who looks like he is trying to do a technique that they want him to do, and he's thinking too much and not just playing. Now, granted, the Patriots have, I think, the highest, if not one of the top 5, at least the top 5 highest paid D tackles that they signed this year. And he went up against DeForest Buckner last week. So it's been a tough test. But to your point, Kevin, and I'll switch it to the other side because a lot of people are talking about Keon Smith and Larry Borum. Yes, Larry Borum was bad at the end of the game. But when you're taking too long to get the plays in, it's getting them into their sets late. You're snapping the ball quickly. You're having him go against Harold Landry. You're not helping him. You're taking, and we all have issues with Julian Hill, but you're keeping him on the left side of the line. You're not helping who is probably the worst player on the line than Larry Borum. And I think he was okay most of the game. We didn't lose the game because of Larry Borum. To your Tua point, with Tua, I'm at this where he gets the year. He's earned that right to get the year. New GM, new coach get to decide his fate. I had some concerns. I don't think he's been seeing the field well these first two games. Now, Kurt Warner put out a video today. It was either today or yesterday. I'm pretty sure yesterday, and I've seen some other clips. The interception that was called back, Cheetah cut off his route. So that was on Cheetah.
Well, he didn't cut off his route. He's supposed to. So what? If anyone didn't see the clip, there's a linebacker like right here, and it's triple slants concept. You're supposed to undercut that safety or corner, whatever it was. I don't remember what it was, and he didn't do that. He's over here trying to run through it and try and make a play. And with a quarterback like Tua, especially where his entire game is built on like timing, landmarks, all of that. If you are thrown off your landmark because you don't know how to undercut a zone coverage defender, you're going to lose. Like, that's just an issue. And just real quick, Brett, on your topic of Larry Borum, why do we keep asking him to block a wide 9? Just go put a tight end in a block. Go put a running back in pass protect and block. You don't have to keep asking him to do that. If he can't do that, he can't do that. Like,
to that point too, as good as Achan's been this season, he's not good in pass pro.
He shouldn't have to. Like, the thing is, and this is again another issue. It's like the two running back sets that they ran a lot in that game, whether it was with Ollie Gordon and Devon Achane, or Devon Achane and Malik Washington, who they lined up in the backfield, or Ollie Gordon and Malik Washington, right? Like, those personnel groupings were incredibly effective, and it caused New England a lot of problems. And then it felt like once it started to cause New England problems, Mike McDaniel was like, well, we can't run that again. Now they'll figure it out. You don't have to try and predict when they'll figure it out. Just run it until they figure it out. It's like, I feel like if they had run those plays more, they would have had a better chance at winning this game comfortably. But they didn't. It took them too long to get to them. And then when they got to them, they were too quick to get rid of them. That's not what a good offensive coach does. That's what someone who just wants to call plays does.
Yes.
I agree completely.
Yep.
Do either of you think we have a shot tomorrow night? Like, realistically?
The only way we have a shot, and I saw the stat today, the Bills have, through 2 games, either the second or the worst run defense in the NFL. And when we do decide to run, and this is something, Jordan, I've been saying this now for 3 years of this podcast, when we decide to run, we can do it. We actually, and for all the concerns about the offensive line, the easiest way to help an offensive line is to run the ball. Run sets are much more simplified than pass sets. We have some bruisers. Just run the ball, keep it close. I think that gets us in a situation where we do have a chance. If we can keep it close, I'll put it this way. If we can keep it close and we're not getting these stupid procedural penalties or having to waste timeouts because the plays are in too late, I will be encouraged.
But I have my doubts about those things.
But I don't trust McDaniel to do that because there's nothing in his history that shows he's willing to do that.
Brett, right now I'm at the point where I would be happy if we make it through the opening drive of the game without calling timeout.
Yes.
No, it's not the opening drive for me. I want to make it through the first quarter without using one because normally they can get the plays in on the first drive. And then after that first drive, they're like, well, what am I supposed to do now?
It's the weirder part to me is that it's off of dead balls. Like how are you getting a delay of game when the game stopped?
How are you getting a delay of game when you have an entire replay review and a 40-second play clock to get the play in? That's something where you should have the play in the minute the ball is set and you're allowed to snap it. You had I think that review on the Achane touchdown took like a minute.
Yeah,
like you should have had a play call in place. And this is what I don't remember if I ended up tweeting it or not, but like the issue with this is that good coaches have a play in place if he's ruled out of bounds. And you know what? If he's ruled out of bounds, we can use this play. If not, we're just bringing the field goal unit on. We're asking them to kick a field goal regardless. So, like, we don't need to have a play call for the 2-point conversion as well. Like, it's these things where it's like, this shouldn't be an issue. And why is this an issue? Jordan, to answer your question about do they have a chance, is Josh Allen playing on Thursday?
I hope so. He's on almost all of my fantasy teams.
Because if Josh Allen is playing on Thursday, that man owns the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
And I do not have any hope that this current build has a chance to beat that guy.
Yeah.
Just being honest.
The other thing, too, is Matt Milano and Ed Oliver are out. So that does weaken their defense. I struggle to see it.
I really believe, and I hate to say this, I believe that the Bills could sit their entire first defense and still at least be in the game.
No, because I think the Dolphins would be able to take advantage of that. I would give them enough credit to be able to take advantage of that.
Can we stop them one time?
Yeah, that's the issue. Is I think that Buffalo could probably score 100 points tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think the issue for Anthony Weaver, part of me thinks, and I know this is what's up, Bobby? I do think this is an issue with a lot of coaches who get linked to becoming head coaches. They tend to try and show, if they get passed over, why they shouldn't have gotten passed over. So I think Anthony Weaver just has to simplify his defense a bit, and I think we will eventually stop. If you told me we were losing just because we have a hodgepodge secondary, I'd believe you. I think all the Dolphin fans would say, yeah, we called that. Secondary is an issue. I don't think people realize – I don't think Weaver knows exactly who he has in the secondary because Rasul Douglas joined a week before the season, and a lot of our safeties were hurt and missed camp. I don't know if you saw this. If Yatu Molafonwu is out tomorrow, which is honestly probably a net gain.
He's not playing well right now. He's so lost out there.
Yeah, he was bad. Dante Trader Jr. will get the snaps, and I think Trader has potential. There's the speed issue, but there's the potential. I think that'll sort itself out. No one saw Zach Sealer playing like a dud for the first 2 weeks, and that's been a big issue. He's not winning in one-on-one block when he's getting one-on-one, and he's getting a lot of one-on-one against the offensive line. So you kind of trust them to figure that out. I am a little worried that Weaver is fine with how Terrell Dodson's playing because I think Dodson was awful against the Patriots.
I think he was better against the Patriots than he was against the Colts because I think he was just so bad against the Colts.
I thought he was worse. There was one run Ramondre Stevenson had that Dodson. He did whiff, but I'm not talking about that. He abandoned his lane, went into Brooks's lane, and then got blocked into Jordan Brooks. So Brooks was taken out of the play. So there are issues. I kind of think that Weaver will figure it out eventually, but you got to simplify it. That's a common theme, honestly. Keep it simple, stupid. I think McDaniel has to do that too. But I think we all can agree we're probably losing by at least 14 tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I have no doubt. And now the question is, if we lose by 3 scores, genuinely, does Mike McDaniel make it to week 4?
I don't think he does.
If we look bad, no.
I think there will be too much frustration in the fan base, too much frustration in a fan base that is already being lost, where Stephen Ross is going to have to feel the pressure to try and make a change. Because there will be belief that the season is salvageable because it's only 3 games. You have an easier stretch coming up. Like there is certainly a possibility where through 5 games, you're 2-3. And that's still not a great place to be, but that's not an awful place to be either. And it's like, I think that there will be enough pressure where there will be conversations that they need to just change it to try and re-energize the fan base. And right now, like historically, Stephen Ross does not have a very long leash in these kind of mid-season situations. He has fired head coaches probably maybe too quickly sometimes. I think that there is certainly a situation where if they lose this game by enough of a margin, he's gone because if it's going to feel like he has to be.
Now it's interesting, and the on-field product, Mike McDaniel, you make that change, but do they just simply clean it and send McDaniel and Greer out together? Or does Greer trickle along a little longer just out of respect for how long he's been with the organization? Because you have Champ Kelly, who is going to be one of the names that I talk about that you consider for GM. You have Anthony Weaver, who's one of the names people are talking about for head coach. Do you just pair them together and see what happens over the next 14 weeks and in discussions? And for the GM, I think it's going to be a lot more about what does it look like behind the scenes, not necessarily what the on-field product looks like for this year, but do you see what somebody else that's in-house, like a Champ Kelly, what their direction is for the team as like an interim general manager?
Yeah, I think that personally, I am of the belief that if you lose this game big enough and you're going to fire Mike McDaniel, you should also just fire Chris Greer now. And you know what? Whether it's like you kind of just waste a trade deadline, which truthfully, I don't know if there's going to be a lot that teams want that you'd be willing to trade. Tyreek Hill is like probably the only real tradable piece on this team right now.
I think you take whatever you can get from Tyreek.
You should, yeah. I mean, if you can get a 7th round pick, just get rid of him. Take a 7th round pick, man. I'm done with that. But like, I would like to see if you can figure out a situation where maybe you have your in-house candidates, right? And like Anthony Weaver, if he does well enough down the stretch, right? Like, let's say he wins 10 games down the stretch. There you go. You've got your next head coach. He certainly did enough at that point to earn it. And then you get to build inside, right? You get to have an understanding of what this team looks like, what needs to change. I would say you just fire both if you're going to fire one. I think now, like, this build is over. Both need to be gone if they can't turn this around, and it doesn't look like they will. So I would just say do it now and start those searches early.
Yep. The counterpoint I would give with Weaver, Ross has fired 2 coaches in season. Fired Tony Sperano.
Kevin, somebody has a message for you.
You're absolutely right. Let's be clear. I don't believe that Anthony Weaver could win 10 games with this build because Willie Gay will play 4 snaps tomorrow and it'll be considered a success. So,
yeah. But remember, Todd Bowles had us playing really well. Stephen Ross decided we need to go outside the organization. Dan Campbell had us playing hard. That might have been a good person to keep. He also might not have been ready, let's be clear. But
Dan Campbell, I think the Dan Campbell one's a little different because it was like he had one really fun game and then the rest of it was still kind of ugly. Yeah. Like it was not this thing where they were like just dominant through.
But Kevin, that one game was
I will always remember that one game against
that game was really, really fun.
But again, and let's preface, we're venting. It's been a frustrating start to the season. So tomorrow, Friday morning, we can wake up and everybody be like, look at these idiots. They got this completely wrong. I don't think that's going to happen. But before we go into our coaching hires, Mr. S does have an interesting suggestion that he did mention to me earlier, but he did put in chat the end of the season because the Browns are going to be bad. What do you think about this?
Yes, absolutely. No questions asked. I think he's one of the best coaches in football. If he is available, he's not on my list because they didn't include any active head coaches. If him or Mike Tomlin gets fired by their respective teams, you can end the search there. Those should be your hires.
So with Mike Tomlin, if he's available, if it's like a Sean Payton situation where it's like you can trade a pick for him, would you trade a pick for Mike Tomlin? Anybody in the chat, would you trade a pick for Mike Tomlin? Just put
like a 4th round pick? Yeah, I mean, I would trade a 4th round pick.
I'm not trading a day 1 or 2 pick.
Yeah, I'm not trading a day 1 or 2 pick. But if you can trade a day 3 pick for him, sure, I have no issues with that.
Yeah. I have some issues with Mike Tomlin being in Pennsylvania. I see a little bit more from the Steelers side. It is clear that both sides do want it, or at least the Steeler fans do want to change the scene, like a change. They feel like he's gotten a little stale. He's very hesitant in Pittsburgh to actually do a rebuild. Like, yes, they drafted Kenny Pickett. That was kind of forced on him by the Rooneys. Now, another thing for Mike Tomlin, I'm thinking.
I just want to stop for a second. Finn's Wave asked if trading a coach in the NFL has ever worked. And I would like to point out that the Miami Dolphins traded for Don Shula.
Yeah, so it has worked out. We should do that again. I'm clearly
that's the
issue.
Gruden won a Super Bowl.
We traded a first-round pick for Don Shula.
So clearly the issue is we're not trading for enough head coaches. Maybe that's the problem in all of this.
Yeah. Now, let's say this is one I just thought of. Mike Tomlin becomes available. If he's interested, do you say, we will let you name your own GM? You can come in. Is that a step you're willing to take?
Yeah, I would assume the GM hires Andy Weidel, who's their assistant GM. I like Andy Weidel. Yeah, I have no issues with that.
I have no issues with that because at the end of the day, you want your coach and your GM to work together, and you expect one of them to be the CEO of your team. And if you're bringing in Mike Tomlin, you're essentially saying that he's the CEO of your team. And so in that case, I would let him pick the general manager.
So we'll start with GMs of who you want to look at a GM, because I see a comment. I did not think a GM, so I'm going to refrain. But please tell me no one is saying Reddick. Nothing against Reddick, who's very supportive. I want someone who's in an NFL front office right now.
Yeah, I've always liked Louis Riddick, and I've always been high on him for GM. But I think that he's become a little bit of a people think he's like an edgy pick, and while I get that, I think it's become too common of an edgy pick. I would like it. I would welcome it. I would welcome fresh ideas. I would be very conscious of who the head coach is if he's the GM, and want to understand more about that dynamic. I don't necessarily see it being something that we do, but it's something that I don't know. But I'll give you 3 names and I'll go relatively quickly. And with these names, I want to be clear that I'm not necessarily, and I haven't done a full world search. I've done more of a head coach search than a GM search. But I'm trying to think of names that Stephen Ross would realistically go after. And that's true. A lot of people have it, and you certainly have, Mr. S. But the 3 names I'll give you, the first I already gave you is Champ Kelly. I think that he's an in-house guy. Greer. Ross loves to promote from inside. I don't think that Champ Kelly was brought in as in whatever his executive title is, just as a coincidence. I think there was a little bit of kind of getting him acclimated and getting his feet wet. I personally believe that if we're going to do this, we should clean house and start over. And like Kev said, there aren't many pieces here that you should want to keep. However, if we do go in-house, I see him as kind of the most likely guy to scoot into that spot. The other 2 names I'll give you, the first I think is going to be the hot name, and that's Alec Halaby from the Eagles. He's 39 years old. He's known as Howie Roseman's right-hand man. I'll give you, if we're going with the young guy and going to let him pick his head coach, Kevin Tulo makes a lot of sense. He's the Eagles offensive coordinator. He's been a developer of Jalen Hurts. So if we're going to bring in Alec Halaby and make him kind of the Theo Epstein of the Dolphins type thing, I could see them giving him the reins to bring in a guy he's comfortable with. And the last name I give isn't going to be a surprise for Brett because it's a name I talk about often when it comes to the Dolphins GM position, and that's Thomas Dimitroff. He for a long time was in Atlanta. I think he kind of staled out like a lot of those guys did after that Super Bowl against the Patriots. You see what Dan Quinn has done with his next opportunity. And I think Dimitroff could be a guy that does that. And we always talk about Ross, where's the connection there? Where's the link? And as we talked about at the end of last season when we thought we were firing Greer, Thomas Dimitroff owns a sports science, sports analytics company, and Stephen Ross is actually a big investor in that company. So there's that link there. They already have a mutual connection. And I could see Dimitroff, I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, is working with the Saints right now and started doing that this year. So I could see him being a guy that sneaks back into one of those GM spots.
And Dimitroff, even when he at the end of the time with the Falcons, he's always been a good drafter. He held on to Mike Smith a little too long. Mr. S did mention Ed Dobbs. I think last year when we talked about this, Jordan Ray Agnew was another guy who we talked about as well. Champ Kelly's someone, I could see that. I have a hard time seeing if we're going anybody in-house. I have a hard time seeing it being anybody but Brandon Shore.
It'd probably be Shore. I have more names though, because I am a psychopath who has about 10 names on a board that I won't name all 10 because Jordan already touched on it.
We got time.
I will go rapid fire through some of the names that I just don't have a lot of opinions on, but I think are ready for it. Someone already mentioned Ray Agnew. Absolutely. Bill's director of player personnel, Terrence Gray. He's a really respected team builder. He's been a part of that team build for a while now. Sign me up. The Bills are a good football team. They do a lot of things that I think the Dolphins should copy. Vikings assistant general manager Demetrius Washington is a very relative newcomer in terms of what he is, but he is someone who continues to grow as a executive, as a general manager. There is a lot of people who think that he will be a general manager in the near future. Maybe not this year, but I think that is certainly a name that you keep an eye on. We've already mentioned Andy Weidel, because he is the Steelers assistant general manager who feels like he's probably more ready than most guys on this list to take his own general managing gig and take his own team over. I would give him a call. I think you absolutely give him a call. Now shifting over to the three names that I have sort of penciled in.
Those were your
these were the ones I just didn't do a lot of research on because truthfully, I only wanted to do three. The first one, and people will go, why him? Bengals director of player personnel, Duke Tobin. Duke Tobin is a god in team building because there is no business why that team should be good, given that their ownership has historically not paid. And so the fact that they
ownership in the NFL,
they are the cheapest ownership in the NFL, and he continues to work effectively like out of a thrift shop in terms of their assets, in terms of their departments, right? And while the Bengals are not an amazing team, they're still a consistent playoff team. They're still a team that's built to sort of compete, right? And I think that if you give a guy like Duke Tobin some more resources, he has the real possibility to take that next step and really build a team that can work. The other name, largely because last year I had the other Buccaneers assistant general manager on the board, and he got hired by the Raiders. I believe he was the Raiders hire at general manager. I already forgot his name. But Mike Greenberg, not the ESPN host. We are not doing ESPN host for this segment. Mike Greenberg has been with the Buccaneers for 16 seasons, and he has done a lot of stuff in terms of football admin, football administration. He's not really a scouting guy, but the Buccaneers front office is one that really does sort of work as a collective. And it's not just one general manager overseeing everything. It's sort of a collective group. Greenberg is a guy who interviewed for the Jaguars offensive coordinator job a year ago. I believe he also interviewed for the Jets job. I didn't get either of them. The Buccaneers continue to look like a really good football team, even as they continue to navigate post-Tom Brady world, post-Tom Brady cap space world, right? I think they continue to do a lot of things. This name will be mentioned a lot because everyone believes he is a future NFL general manager. That's Chad Alexander, the Chargers assistant general manager. Worked under Joe Horitz in Baltimore. Anytime you could take someone from the Baltimore front office tree, I feel like you just do that because Ozzie Newsome has magic water in Baltimore to produce high-level executives. Alexander is a guy who's worked in scouting. He's done a lot of the work in scouting. He's now an assistant general manager. That guy's ready for a new job. Why don't you just go pair him with one of the other names that I'm sure will be mentioned here soon. And then one other name that I think is interesting and not one that will happen is former Chiefs general manager Scott Pioli. And the only reason why I say this is he is 60 years old. I understand that it didn't really work out in Kansas City. I would be interested in him as a consultant, like a president of football operations, and then you just sort of hire young guys to build around him, whether that's keeping guys like Brandon Shore and, other guys who are already in the front office and just building around them. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea if you go hire someone like Scott Pioli to go be the consultant overseer of things. Just probably not going to be the hire. I think they're going to end up hiring someone who runs the football team, who is maybe not as experienced, but can run the football team by himself.
Yeah. It's funny, for years, my answer to this would always be Omar Khan, but he's the football czar in Pittsburgh. But anybody from Pittsburgh you'd like to get, but that's one of those teams where you stay there. You know you're going to get promoted, but I think going after anybody from Kansas City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, even though Baltimore GMs tend not to be the best when they get outside of Baltimore. But those would be the teams I would look at. I think we can all agree at this point it is time for a change. Chris Grier, I saw a stat, like I'm not the biggest Chris Grier hater because I think he has done some good, but he's the longest reigning GM without a playoff win in the NFL, and he's been here since 2000. So it is time to move on. I don't think he has stuff on Ross. I think he's probably a very likable guy. He's easy to work with. He had a vision. I think the beginning of the vision was good. It just, as we went on, it didn't work. And you've essentially given him 2 head coaching hires. Flores, for various reasons, didn't work. I know people are trying to go back around and say Flores did it. Look, Brian Flores did not understand offense. You couldn't keep him on. Mike McDaniel doesn't understand defense, doesn't understand anything but designing plays right now. And I like McDaniel, but you just can't give him a third shot of this. If you want to do anything, you look at what the Vikings did with another, ironically, former Dolphins GM, Rick Spielman, where he was he was a good to good GM for the Vikings, but there was a very low ceiling with him. Very high floor, very low ceiling. They took a risk, and the Vikings very good at building a team now. They are loaded. They can just pick people up off the street. A lot of that is Kevin O'Connell too. But they've got a good thing going for them. So now the fun part that I'll get involved in, and let's talk about coaches. But Kev, I will let you start with coaches.
Okay, so I was told to bring 5. I brought 5.
Okay. And Kev, I want to let you know something. There's a lot of pressure right now because I told Brett that there was one name, and I know the name that the 3 of us are in huge agreement of who the next head coach should be. And we'll all talk about him. But I have one name that I told Brett I have been saving in my back pocket to say on this show. And if he is one of your 5, I'm going to be very upset. So let's see. With that being said, if you hear me scream and get out of my chair, it's because Kevin said the name. Kevin, you have the floor.
Okay, so let's get the 3 obvious ones out the board or off the list because they're the 3 ones that everyone is going to have on these lists for good reason. Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator in Baltimore. Yep. That offense is really dang good. Todd Monken is someone who had success coaching at the college level for years, was a college head coach at Southern Mississippi, had some success there. I get it. Southern Miss is not the same as coaching the Miami Dolphins. But if anyone understands college football in the context of college football, it's impressive when you can have success at a place like Hattiesburg, Mississippi, because that's a place that historically has been kind of up and down, more recently down. Let's stick there. Jeff Hafley is a really popular name because that Green Bay Packers defense looks really good. Hafley is the former head coach of the Boston College Eagles in the ACC. I don't know why I said their full name like that, but I think that like Hafley, what he does on defense is incredibly creative. I think that if you're going to go with a defensive minded head coach as your next head coach, which I don't subscribe to that thinking at all. I don't think you have to hire an offensive head coach. You have to hire a defensive head coach. I think you should just hire the best head coach.
Yep. And let's be clear with Hafley too. The only reason he's not at Boston College is he was sick of NIL.
Yes, he was sick of NIL. He didn't really want to deal with that. There's no indication that he's done wanting to be a head coach like Chip Kelly is, and that's why Chip Kelly's not on anyone's board. But it appears that Hafley's willing to go back into actually being a head coach, and so sign me up. Finally, because Stephen Ross loves Michigan men, there's one Michigan man who he tried to get in John Harbaugh, did not get Harbaugh. So maybe you go take one of his proteges in Chargers defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter. Jesse Minter is a mastermind. He is a future NFL head coach. I believe it was Harbaugh. I believe it was Harbaugh who said like he knows it's a matter of time until he's a head coach, and he's just kind of waiting for it to happen. This is the year it happens. He's going to get an interview request by every single team in the country, including the Miami Dolphins, if they're on this list. And I'd go hire him now. I'd go hire him now. We're going to stick with the Green Bay Packers for this next one and then go to the offensive side of the ball. And Adam Stenavich, who I believe is their offensive coordinator and I believe offensive line coach. I don't remember if he's the second one.
Also a Michigan man.
Also a Michigan man. If you just want to take a Michigan man, again, maybe it's not the most popular name because LaFleur calls plays in Green Bay, but this is not a situation where it's like LaFleur's entire offense is just his and the offensive coordinator doesn't get a say in game planning, doesn't get a say in situational circumstances. I would absolutely hire him. If you want to go hire him and make him your guy, go make him your guy. I would sign up on that immediately. It is one that is just, I feel like a no-brainer for me. I have one more off the board name that is not a part of this list. This guy is not on your list because this is a position coach.
Okay. I feel good. Is this game number 5 or is this an addition?
This is an addition, honorable mention one that is just not going to happen.
Pressure's on now.
That is Eagles pass game coordinator and secondary coach, Kristen Parker. He's only, I believe, about 33 years old. He's only been an NFL coach for a few years now. But you look at what that Eagles defense has done in terms of producing and developing talent. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, both homegrown players who have had a ton of success in Philadelphia. DeJean, of course, a key part in them winning a Super Bowl last year. Then you also look at a guy like Reed Blankenship, their safety, who I believe was an undrafted free agent, who's now a starting safety in the NFL and a damn good starting safety in the NFL. Now, finally, for the last name, Jordan, if you want to cross your fingers, there's almost no way I think you put this guy on your list because he is 29 years old.
Okay, I'm good.
And he is younger than most players are playing right now. That is Jaguars offensive coordinator Grant Udinski. Look, I get it. You will see a 29-year-old offensive coordinator and go, why would he be a head coach? Everyone who has ever interacted with this guy has said he is a genius. And that includes Sean McVay. That includes Kevin O'Connell. That includes Liam Cohn, who made it a priority to bring him to Jacksonville when he was hired as the head coach. And I think that if you're looking for a guy who you can build a team around and not just sort of have to place a coach in there, Udinski was really crucial in Minnesota in terms of both developing J.J. McCarthy as a rookie as he battled through his season-ending meniscus injury, but also making sure that Sam Darnold, who had a resurgence of types in Minnesota, was ready to play every Sunday. This is a guy who I think is going to be a head coach at some point. Maybe it's a year too early. Maybe it's 2 years too early. I have no issues with hiring a head coach early. I have no issues with letting a head coach grow. Just make sure it's the right guy. By all accounts, Udinski's kind of that one of those guys who's like next in line and we're all just waiting for the time. Give him a call, man. Bring him in for an interview. Maybe he's not the hire. I'd like to see him get an interview and sort of see if he's the guy. I would imagine the name, though, comes from one of those first 3 that I mentioned in Hafley, Munkin, and Minter.
Yeah.
Those are 3 guys I love. Stenavich was someone I was like, oh, that's someone I want to put on my list. And I was like, we can talk about him. There's no way. And then I was like, Kev's going to mention Stenavich.
Yeah, I've got
keeps developing guys.
Yeah. One other name that I'll mention just real quick is Lions offensive line coach Hank Fraley.
Yep.
He, again, if you want to hire a position coach, Fraley is a guy who's developed a lot of talent in Detroit, is by all accounts praised as a talent developer. That'd be a name I'd consider. I don't know if I'd even give him an interview. That's a name I'd consider.
So I have 9 names, but the caveat here is that 4 of them are on my no list, and I think that they are big enough names that I want to address the 4 of them as this is why I don't necessarily want these guys.
Can I take a guess as to who's on that list?
Sure.
John Gruden's on that list, I hope.
He's on that list. He's one of the 4.
Mike McCarthy's on that list, I hope.
He's not, but he's a no. He's a no that I think is an obvious no. These are more guys that people actually say yes to that I'm going to say no.
Is Joe Brady on that list?
Joe Brady's on that list.
Okay, I kind of want
one of the coaches on your list is on my no list.
Is it Monken?
It's Todd Monken.
Okay, I sort of understand that one.
So, and the other one's Anthony Weaver, and I'll run through them relatively quickly. With Joe Brady, I think that his stint in Carolina wasn't good. He is still very young, and I don't know that necessarily Stephen Ross is going to go with another very young coach. I think Jesse Minter's in a different category, and we'll get to him in a little bit. But I don't think we'll go with a coach. Look, at the end of the day, and I don't want to get morbid, life, all this, but there's a good chance that this is the last head coach that Stephen Ross ever hires. So I think that he's going to go the path of least resistance. And the guy, you tend to, when you get rid of a coach, go in the opposite direction. I think we're going to look for a leader of men. And I think we're going to look for somebody that can be an overall CEO of the football team on a day-to-day basis. And I have the same concerns about Joe Brady as I do about Mike McDaniel, whether fair or not. And I also don't want a guy who the biggest successes on his resume are with Josh Allen, who's one of the best quarterback talents of all time, and probably the greatest college football offense of all time. I want a guy with a little more grit and a guy that has gone through a little more of the ringer and been with less talented teams that have been successful, more than just poaching a guy from a team that had all the success and he was just a product of all that success. So I love that Joe Brady is from Pembroke Pines. I love that he is a South Florida kid. I just think that there are a couple things there that I'm not necessarily fully sold on when I'm making this hire. With Monken, similarly, his last two big successes are Lamar Jackson and the Georgia Bulldogs. And to me, that, like, look, I know Kevin, you and I have a mutual friend who is an offensive coordinator that I think could coach the Georgia Bulldogs and have some relative success.
Hey, let's be clear. I don't think he could.
He probably can. And honestly, if he was on here, he would probably say he couldn't either. But you get my point. Like,
you know what? I'll ask him after the podcast. We can get an answer.
You know what? I'm going to text him right now, and I'm going to ask.
I will too.
He was on here when we played the Titans. So if you were coaching Georgia, could you win the SEC? Okay, so the other two names that I said no to are Anthony Weaver. I think that we're going to get a sample, and so that no might become a yes by what we see over the course of the regular season. But as of this moment, I haven't seen enough from his unit. And the other one is John Gruden. Look, John Gruden could come back and have a great next stop in the NFL. There are two main reasons. Number one, because of the stuff that has gone on with Brian Flores and the league and Stephen Ross. I think that I don't know if we want to go with another coach who has been mixed up with some legal issues, whether squashed or not. And I think the other thing is he's a Barstool TV personality right now. And I think he's great in that role. But I think that whoever hires him is going to take a little bit of that with them. And I think you need to be an organization who can take that on a little more than I think the current state of the Miami Dolphins can handle and win.
So you kind of think it would be like a Jimmy Johnson situation when he came here?
A little bit. And
so shout out to John Gruden. He does follow us on Instagram.
And our mutual friend Kevin said, I think I could score some points and have the time and talent to do a lot.
All right, man.
All right, so on to the five names. I've already said two of them. Jesse Minter is one. I think that he is right now number one on my list. Probably, I think he's he's tied for second youngest coach. He's in the bottom three, but I do think that his ties to Harbaugh, his ties to Michigan, he's very well respected to people that Stephen Ross respects. And I think that it is going to come down to his interview and does he pick another team over us? I think that we're probably very likely going to be the first team that is in these circles. So while we're not going to be hiring a coach right away, we're definitely going to have time to put some feelers out there. And I could see Minter being a guy that is already right there in pen on Stephen Ross's shortlist. The other name that I already said, who's actually in 5th place, so I'm giving you 1st and 5th, is Kevin Patullo, the Eagles offensive coordinator. Especially if we bring in Alec Hallaby. I think that's a pairing. If you look at it, just like Kevin, you gave the assistant GM or whatever his high-end title is of the Chargers as a guy that you could possibly pair with Minter. I think that makes sense. Brett, the name I've been frothing at all day, that I stumbled upon and was like, oh, that's interesting, and dug in. And it's going to be very anticlimactic. I want to be clear. But sometimes the best hires are a little anticlimactic. And the name is David Shaw. David Shaw won 64% of his games at Stanford. David Shaw was with the Broncos offense last year. And David Shaw is the pass game coordinator for the Lions this year. David Shaw is still in his 50s, and I think that the break from football after he left Stanford, it was good for him. He had 9 years of NFL coaching experience before going back to college. And I think if you are looking for a CEO type coach that can be down the middle and coach the entire football team as opposed to just be a play caller on one side of the ball, I think that David Shaw is somebody that's going to come in and interview very well. And I think because of that, he's a name. And again, not necessarily flashy name that I love that could be a future great coach, but a name that I think makes sense for the current state of the Miami Dolphins. And I think that David Shaw is right up there in logistical making sense. A guy who has won before with in the heyday of USC at an academic school that has struggled to put it back together since he left, I think is just a name that needs to be.
That's fair, because people say, yeah, Harbaugh started the success there, but he continued it, like you said. I don't think people realize how tough it is to win at Stanford.
Yes, absolutely. So, and the other two names I'll give, and I'll let you talk more about one of the two, because I know you're waiting to, and that's Dan Lanning. I think that if you're going to go the college route, people say Marcus Freeman. I'm more Lanning than Freeman. And I think that that's a guy, again, now if you want to go the anti-David Shaw, that's a flashy name, tough, gritty leader that can make sense. And then the last name, and I'm sure I'm going to get a third eye roll from Kevin, is Steve Spagnuolo.
I'd like that hire. I'd like that hire.
Thank you.
I'd actually be fine with that too.
I think that
I know he was bad with the Rams, but he's rebuilt everything.
He was bad with the Rams in the one season that Sam Bradford was fully healthy. They finished 7-9, and for those that don't remember, the NFC West was so bad that I'm pretty sure 7-9 was one game out of a playoff spot.
Yep. They had to win the last game of the season.
And then he got fired because it was A.J. Feely's last season in the NFL. And for those that want to know, that was 6 seasons after he was terrible for the Miami Dolphins. Yep. So I give him a break for what happened in St. Louis. I've listened to him speak a couple times in the last year or two, and Steve Spagnuolo has said that there is that fire to be a head coach one more time. You see what somebody like Sean Payton has been able to do, what somebody like Pete Carroll has been able to do at an old age, and Spagnuolo is almost a decade younger than those guys. I think that he would be a guy, again, Minter, Shaw, Spags is number 3 for me, with the other two being much further down. But I think that Spags could be the type of guy that can turn around and bring back some toughness to the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Steve Spagnuolo is a guy I thought about. Like, yes, I know he's not the most impressive resume as a head coach, but you see how he's rebuilt his reputation in Kansas City. On this show, I think with both of you on it, I asked you, is Steve Spagnuolo the best big game defensive coordinator in NFL history? And I think it's tough to argue against that. So I think he's definitely someone who does deserve another chance.
Sorry, Brett, one more thing. I saw a thing on Spagnuolo the other day that I just chuckled. at what it would be like. He said the key to winning in the NFL is in-game adjustments.
Well, that's something I'm not used to seeing.
Like mind-blowing.
You're allowed to do that?
Yeah. Now, Kev, the reason you told me to talk is I was the one who said, Dan Lanning is someone I would at least put feelers out to. He's young. Would he leave Oregon? Probably not. Is he ready? Probably not. But he comes from the Kirby Smart, Nick Saban coaching tree. So he does run. It's not like the Chip Kelly Oregon. He does run a very pro-like program. So I would put feelers out for him. I'd also put feelers out for Kirby Smart as well. I didn't realize how young Kirby still was. I think he's only 49. So Kirby Smart's another guy I would look at. Kev, I do think you're right. Todd Monken and Jesse Minter are definitely two of the top.
Can I go back to something? Because I did some research. Kevin, you said something about Monken having success at Southern Miss.
Yes.
He had a 33% winning percentage.
Well, I think to be fair is he took over a one-win team. I do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he took over like a one-win team.
He took over a one-win team that was in disarray. His last year was his only winning season. Yes.
Yeah, he took over a one-win team, went 1-11, 3-9, then 9-5. Took him to a bowl game. The only reason why he stopped was because he got the offer to go coach in the NFL as the Buccaneers offense coordinator. Yeah. So, like, it's not some renowned success where he was like building a powerhouse like Boise State, but like he built that program from the ground up effectively.
Yeah. But yeah, college, I do think you do have to give Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning looks. Jesse Minter, I think he's at the end of the day is going to be everybody's number one. Watched him for was he there for 2 years? Yeah, he was at Michigan for 2 years. He was great. Built on all the success Mike Macdonald started the year before, and Mike Macdonald became a head coach, Seattle, as we now know. Minter just built on it. He is basically Jim Harbaugh 2.0 in his attitude and how he makes everything personal. He's someone that if Miami Dolphin fans dig in, he's going to be a guy everybody's like, we need to go get this guy.
Yeah.
And this may be a little egotistical as a Dolphins fan, but what we offer as a team, we could get anybody we want. I know a lot of people don't like Stephen Ross because how he runs the team, but he is considered by the people who work for him one of the best owners in football. So if he wants me, he could go get him. Monken is another guy that I'm like, yeah, you look and you look at the success he had both with the Bulldogs and with the Ravens now. I think it's hard not to give him a call either. I do have Joe Brady on the list. Yes, Jordan, your points about who he's had success with are taken, and I'm a little gun shy with the coordinators, the young offensive coordinators who become hot prospects. They all tend to want to just pass the ball, as we see with Mike McDaniel. So there is some, and that was an issue in Carolina too. They flat out came out and said he did not run the ball enough, but he's changed that in Buffalo. So I do think you at least got to call him. It might be a situation of if you can't beat him, join him. Same with Bobby Babich, who we did want to interview for defensive coordinator, I believe, when we hired Weaver. Maybe it was Fangio, but I do remember we at least talked to him to be defensive coordinator. But I would give Bobby Babich a call too. The Bills just keep losing people on defense, both to injury and to free agency, and they just keep turning new people in. They just keep looking good. This year early on, they don't look good either, but I would give him a call. An interesting name, probably a little too early, is Drew Petzing from Arizona. He comes from the Minnesota coaching tree. He's known as a good developer of talent. And you can see the difference he's made with Kyler Murray so far. So I would at least consider him, especially whether you want to keep rolling with Tua or if we get a new quarterback. He's someone you'd want in the quarterback's ear. So that is someone I would consider. Plus, another name that's a little off the radar I was thinking about is Wes Phillips. He is
That's not the Vikings offensive coach I'd hire, but yes.
But there's also 3 DUIs.
Yeah, that's entirely
That's
a
an
reason
issue.
why I don't think he'd be
And one of them being 2 years ago.
Yeah. And another person I looked at that I was kind of interested in is the current Houston offensive coordinator, Nick Caley. He is very familiar with the AFC East. He spent years with New England, mainly as the tight ends coach, and he developed some good tight ends. He also had a year with McVay, actually a couple of years with McVay in Los Angeles. Still only 43, but that's another guy you kind of look at and you look at his background and you say, okay, I would definitely consider him to help instill a bit of toughness into the team. But yeah, right now I think my favorite would be Jesse Minter.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
That hasn't been mentioned, and I get the eye rolls that may come from this one. Rams defensive coordinator Chris Shula.
Oh,
I get it.
I
get it. The storyline is going to be awesome, right? Don Shula's grandson comes to coach the Miami Dolphins. Wow, isn't that awesome? I think he's also just a good coach.
He almost was our defense. We wanted to interview him last year, and
if you watch what the Rams defense is doing right now with that linebacker room, with those corners, right? Like they are taking blood from the stone right now. They are creating lemonades out of nothing. I mean, that is not a team that has any business being as good as they are. And I get it. They haven't really played a super tough schedule. They haven't exactly played a lot of gauntlet teams, but they are creating havoc. Chris Shula is another one of these younger coaches who, he's only coached under Sean McVay. So I do get maybe some of the hesitation that he hasn't learned from other coaches. I don't know, man. I look at what they've done as a defense right now. They're one of the best defenses in college football. I'd give him a call. Equally,
are they one of the best in the NFL, though?
Yes, that too. Equally, old friend Vance Joseph. I'd give him a call. If he wants to be a head coach again, that Broncos defense is one of the best defenses in the league.
He was not ready to be a head coach when he took the job.
Yeah, I don't think he was ready. I think he maybe if he's learned from those mistakes and learned from those situations, I'd give him a call. I don't know if he'd be even top of my list, but I think you'd at least consider it.
Yeah. And then another young coach I'm kind of waiting to see how they do this year is Zach Robinson with Atlanta.
Yeah.
He's another guy, came up under McVay. Can tell I like the McVay coaching tree. I like the system. But he's a first-time offensive coordinator, I believe. He was passing game coordinator before with the Rams. Now he's offensive coordinator for Atlanta. Got to see what he can do. Early signs look good. He actually has Kyle Pitts playing like a top 5 pick. But he's someone I'd look at too.
Kevin, you said that Chris Shula has only learned under Sean McVay. Does that factor into the fact that his grandpa was one of the best coaches of all time?
Does he have any of the Don Shula mat? Can we go undefeated with him? I'm willing to find that out.
What if we trade for Chris Shula? Then you put in the trading for the coach, mixed in with the Shula.
I feel like we just need to send the Rams. We wouldn't have to because I feel like we should just send the Rams a pick. Be like, you know what? Thank you.
No, we insist.
Take our first round pick this year. We don't need it.
Yeah, but I think right now
we're going to talk in a few weeks, and if things keep going this way,
take the second round pick. We need that first round pick.
But everybody right now is agreeing probably Jesse Minter would be the first choice.
Yeah, for me, it's Minter 1, Shaw 2, Spags 3.
I would go Minter 1, Halfley 2, Monken 3. I think.
I'd probably do the same. I'd be interested in Jeff Halfley too. He's a little bit more under the radar, I think, just because Green Bay coaches don't really leave for promotions, it seems like. But yeah, I think those 3 are, and Joe Brady, of course, is going to get, especially after tomorrow, if it goes how we think, he's going to be getting a lot of love from Dolphin fans too. But yeah, I think those would be the top 4. Your 3, Kev, plus Brady would probably be the top 4 Dolphin fans.
I do like the David Shaw pick, though. I gave you the eye roll initially. I actually am not as opposed to it now.
Yeah. I'm telling you,
I'm not opposed to it.
Has had the at first, and then you look at it, you're like,
Yeah. I think at this point, especially after missing on Harbaugh with the Dolphins and seeing how things have gone, I think Ross is going to lean, knowing how Stephen Ross works, I think he's going to lean heavily into Jim Harbaugh for advice on who to be the next coach.
And I think that leads to Minter and Shaw.
Yeah. If Harbaugh's getting advice, there's like two names that it's Shaw or it's Minter or like Ryan Ficken, their special teams coordinator, who's been there for like 6 years.
What about Darren Rizzi? Can we bring him back?
No.
Or we go after Jim Harbaugh's son, Jay Harbaugh.
We did it. We got a Harbaugh.
If we're going after a Harbaugh, we might as well get a Shula.
Yeah.
But look, before we get off here, I have a very important question because I have my only other resident Panther fan that comes on this show. Are we three-peating or what?
Three-peat. I'm hearing reports of a three-peat. I don't know. I know Kachuk is out for like a couple. I'm not scared. Three-peat.
No. He's going to be out for the season. We're going to get Evgeny Malkin or something, and then we'll get
to tweak the system one more time, for fun.
Yeah, just because. I am worried though, because did you see the interview with Bill Zito today when he was asked what he did all offseason? Said he read some of Pat Riley's books. And
Pat Riley won multiple championships, so
he did, and he also, now that you're reminding me, coined the term three-peat.
Yeah,
and owns it.
Three-peat it is. I found the light. The light has been spoken to me.
And just so you know, Brett, the more and more the Dolphins lose, the more and more
this becomes a podcast, a Panthers podcast.
Yeah, because we're still a little bit too early for draft season, unfortunately.
We're a loss in the Jets game away from being in draft season.
Yeah, fair enough. But hey, to the 492 of you who joined us, thank you. We will be back. Maybe not next week, because I don't know, depending on how the game goes, I don't know if we want to talk about it. Well, we will be back for the Jets.
Let's be clear. You may also be back because there may be an emergency episode that has to be done. So
next week will be interesting. We will say that. And we hope you all join us. Kev, you're always welcome. You know that. We'll shoot you a link, an actual link this time, not just
not just words.
Yep. But thank you everybody for joining us. Despite the negativity on this podcast, we are all hoping for a win. And I know we all will be watching at least the first quarter tomorrow.
Well, hey, like you said, I'm in California now. It starts at 5:15 in the afternoon. I'm going to be getting home from work, and it's an early game for me.
Yeah.
I'll be up the whole game and after the game if you want to talk.
All right. Everybody get your if you're listening, get your coaches out there. So have a good night, everybody.
Go Fins.
Go Fins.